Some music is meant to be warm and welcoming, like a soft cashmere sweater. Then there's other music that's meant to be jarring, uncomfortable, almost like a cold shower. And then there's music that kind of sits in a demilitarized zone somewhere in between those two poles. Today, I'm reviewing an album that firmly plants itself into this demilitarized zone. Hi everyone, this is Paul Crayson, and you're watching Music Mentions. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Wilco's latest release, Cousin. Stick around to the end of the video, and I'll give you my final rating on the album. So who is Wilco? Wilco is a band that was formed in 1993 from the ashes of the seminal alt-country band Uncle Tupelo. Here's the current lineup of Wilco. Jeff Tweedy, who's on vocals, is primary songwriter, and plays rhythm guitar. John Estirat, he's on bass. We've got Glenn Koch, he's on drums. Mikael Jorgensen on keyboards. The great Nels Klein on guitar and lap steel. And Pat Sansone, who's a multi-instrumentalist playing guitar, keyboards, percussion, and the harpsichord. At various times, Wilco's been described as alternative rock, experimental rock, art rock, indie rock, and alternative country. Some young music fans have even labeled Wilco as dad rock, which is not meant to be a compliment, but I think it's just a stupid label that really doesn't tell you anything about the band. I figure it's done by some ignorant kids who think that the height of musical expression is Drake or something. They figure that Wilco has been around for such a long time and is such a safe and soft band that even your parents can listen to it. Personally, I describe Wilco as just a great American rock band that lives in a corner of a universe that is all its own. There's really no other band that sounds like Wilco. Their first album, AM, was released in 1994, and the last album prior to Cousin was called Cruel Country, and that was released last year in 2022. Wilco is also known as a fantastically reliable and wonderful live band. They have about 1,900 shows currently under their belt at the time of this review. So now I'm going to hit on some album notes. Cousin was released on September 29th, 2023. It's the 13th studio album from Wilco. The album was recorded in Chicago at the band's studio that they call The Loft. This is the first time since 2007's release of Sky Blue Sky that Wilco has employed an outside producer to help them produce the record. The producer's name is Kate Laban. Kate Laban is a Welsh musician and producer who's worked with the likes of Deer Hunter, John Grant, and Kurt Vile. Let's take a look at the track listing and the lengths of the songs in the album. There are 10 songs on Cousin, the longest of which is Infinite Surprise, running at a length of 5 minutes, 43 seconds. The whole album lasts just under 43 minutes. Now let's discuss the album's title and take a better look at the album artwork. The album title of Cousin suggests the music is familiar as family, but also a distance away, as in the saying that something is a cousin to something else. They're related, but not quite the same. It's an apt descriptor of the music on this album. The songs definitely have the familiarity of standard rock or folk rock songs about them, but they also have this distance to them that makes them novel and interesting in different ways. If the title doesn't quite explain it, the album cover should. Icicles on a flower arrangement, somewhere between summer and winter, warm and cold, happening at the same time. It's a great visual analogy to the music. When you hear the album, you'll understand how perfect this cover truly is. This has to be one of my favorite album covers by Wilco. It's simply beautiful. So before I start talking about the songs themselves, here are some general album observations I had. Overall recording quality of this album is excellent. no complaints at all, especially those drums. They sound just fantastic. This album, I think, does benefit for turning up the volume a little bit and playing it a little louder, maybe a little louder than you're used to. It comes off kind of as a quiet album, but when you turn it up just a little bit, it really demands your attention and get it to the point where you can start feeling those drums and you're in for a different experience. The overall mood of this album is one that I would describe as having this kind of floaty, bouncy somberness to it. It's not a party album at all, but on the other hand, it also isn't an exercise in moroseness or so dour that you just want to kill yourself. It occupies some type of an area between these extremes. Something that is generally true for most Wilco albums, and this one is no exception. The album rewards repeated listenings. It actually demands that because you're going to miss a lot of what's going on if you're just going to listen to it one time or listen to it even a couple of times, but your attention is drawn elsewhere. It demands your attention, and it demands that you sit with it and really engage with it. Once again, something that I call active listening. For the well-seasoned Wilco heads out there, I don't think getting into this album is going to be any problem at all. But for those that are not that familiar with Wilco, just be patient with the album. So let's talk about the songs. Infinite Surprise is the lead-off track of Cousin, and as I mentioned, it is the longest song on the album. Infinite Surprise was actually the working title of this album before they settled on Cousin, which I thought was pretty interesting. The start of the track is kind of jarring and unsteady, almost like you stepped into the middle of something that's already been happening. There's a steady ticking, like a fast metronome or a click track, that continues throughout the song except for a portion of the song kind of in the middle. And it adds this sense of urgency, but there's also some kind of mechanical sense around the song as well. Best way I could describe it is something organic with something inorganic. And what's fascinating about this ticking and this sense of urgency is at the same time, the vocals are very laid back and soft, almost whispered. So right away, we're getting a sense of almost a dual personality or a dichotomy on this album. In the middle of the song, you can hear Jeff Tweedy's vocals scrape the highest notes that they can reach, almost at the same time that the music is also breaking up a little bit. It's a great juxtaposition. There's a concept on this album of extremes or contrasts or disparate things happening. Take a look at these lyrics. You can kind of see what I mean here with these lyrics. In one breath, he's saying it's good to be alive, and in the next line, he's saying it's good to know we die. This kind of dichotomy or contrast seems to be present throughout the album. Infinite Surprise is an interesting start to the album. It is not something that's going to grab people that have never heard Wilco before and grab their attention. It definitely can be a challenging song, but listen to it several times and you'll start figuring out what it's all about and the mood that it's trying to develop. The next song is called 10 Dead, and there's an overwhelming sense of resignation and sadness in this song. Certainly the saddest song on the album. It's a song that's pretty obviously about mass killings and the fact that there's a resignation that now comes with finding out that there's been another shooting and another mass murder, and people are just giving up because they don't know what to do about it. The music also manifests this sense of capitulation. There are these guitar notes that are sliding, almost sounding like sighs, like they're giving up. And with the minor chords that are played, it's definitely a heavy tune. The song starts with these lyrics, and I think many of us can identify with this. You wake up in the morning, you turn on the radio, and you hear about another shooting. So what is it that he wants to do when he hears this on the radio? He wants to go back to bed because there's nothing he can do about it. This sense of resignation once again. I don't know about all of you, but the sentiment of this song certainly resonated with me. At the end of the song, there's this crescendo right after the 3-minute mark, and it's a fine climax to the song. And it's interesting, at the end, there are just a few little guitar notes that trail off in this sad way. Yeah, this song is not a happy song. Song number 3 is called Levy, and this one I describe as classic Wilco-y sound. This is a mid-tempo, kind of contemplative song. There are these great guitar lines, very shimmery, that really drive the song forward. Going over the lyrics, it seemed to me that this song is about a codependent relationship of some sort. Here are the lyrics from the chorus. It seems like there's a quid pro quo thing happening in this relationship, and he's going to save this other person, and then he asks the other person to save him. And there are many lines like this within the song. Here's some other lyrics from Levy. And these are very human lyrics I think many of us can probably identify with. Once again, we have this theme of a contrast or a struggle. He says he loves to take his meds, but then he worries that he shouldn't. The 4th song is called Evicted, and this was the first single off the album. I picked up a George Harrison vibe on this one right away. Check out those 3 guitar notes right at the beginning of the song, and also check out the bridge or the middle 8. Very George Harrison-esque. That's not a bad thing. The focus of the song seems to be centered around a very pretty descending guitar line that really starts getting into your head after a few listens. This is definitely one of my favorite songs on the album, even though it is about heartbreak. The 5th song is called Sunlight Ends, and it starts off with the drum machine. This is one of the more interesting songs on the album, and one that I would classify as a bit experimental. What I really find fascinating about this song are the keyboard lines. Listen to the keyboards when you listen to this song, because the keyboards are really kind of apprehensive, I would say. It's like they don't want to commit to the song, so they kind of dance around the melody, and once again building this state of unsureness, of something that's not quite right, not quite settled. The music also supports the lyrical theme of the song. It seems like the song is about some guy that's trying to get closer to another person, but that person keeps slipping away. So they never quite get a sense of having that person secure. But at the same time, even if he could secure that person, he knows that they're both lost. Really interesting. Side 2 starts with song 6, A Bowl and a Pudding. This is easily the most Radiohead sounding song on the album. The influence is right there, even down to the title. A bowl and a pudding. Have no idea what that means. Very similar to a lot of Radiohead song titles. The first thing that hit me about this song was the opening guitar lines, which reminded me right away of songs that she sang in the shower by Jason Isbell off of his modern day masterpiece called Southeastern. If you haven't listened to that album, go listen to it. Seriously, one of the finest albums of the last 20, 30 years. No kidding. So A Bowl and a Pudding is another sad song about another breakup. Yeah, you're getting a sense there is a lot of melancholy on this album. One really interesting aspect to the song are these echoed vocal lines throughout, almost giving the song an ephemeral, ghost-like quality. Really good. The 7th song is the title track called Cousin. This is the second single off of the album, and there are these incessant hand claps that go throughout the song, almost echoing that fast metronome sound that I mentioned about Infinite Surprise at the start of the album. Once again, we have these rapid tap sounds throughout the song, giving the song a sense of urgency and forward momentum. One thing that I surprised myself with when I was listening to the song is some of the guitar strums reminded me of U2. I had no idea U2 and Wilco are about as far apart as they can be. But there you go. Like most of the other songs on the album, with the exception of maybe 10 Dead, the lyrics here are pretty inscrutable, although they can be given to different interpretations, which I guess is a good thing, and obviously something that Jeff Tweedy does like to do with his lyrics. So Jeff Tweedy has said that this song is not a reference to the famous TV series The Bear, which is set in Chicago and is about these people that work at a restaurant in the town. One of the main characters in the series is calling another character cousin throughout, although they're not related. I'm not so sure that Tweedy is being fully honest with this, because after I read the lyrics and after having seen the show, I can see some analogies and some parallels. Tell me what you think. Let me know in the comments. It does seem like the bear may have been an inspiration for this song, but I don't know. Let me know what you think. The song ends with the same line repeated multiple times, and that line is, "The dead awake in waves." I have no idea what that is about, but one thing I am certain of is I'm pretty sure this is not a song about zombies. If you have any ideas what this last line is referring to, I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments. The eighth song is called Pittsburgh. This one also has whispered lyrics, that floaty feel that I mentioned before. It's almost dirge-like. There are no choruses in this song, although I believe this song is the second longest on the album. Looking at these lyrics, the theme of this song appears, to me at least, to be about, is that all there is? It seems like there's this point of getting to your achievement or achieving something, but at the same time not being satisfied with that achievement. The ninth song is called Soldier Child, and again, this is another mid-tempo, another song about contrasts. Here's a snippet of the lyrics. Now, I interpreted this song as Jeff coming off tour and finally comes home, and he realizes how tired and spent and in pain he is. He's happy, but he's still unsatisfied. At least that was my interpretation. Let me know what yours is. Soldier Child is another one of my favorites on the album. And finally, we get to song number 10, which is called Meant to Be. This song is easily the happiest, most optimistic song on Cousin. But don't get me wrong here. There's still a sense of longing, of not quite getting something that you want with this song. For my money, this should definitely have been the lead-off single, if not at least the next single. It's really good. Looking at some of the lyrics here, I can just hear this as a song almost like the Dead's version of Not Fade Away, which just is great live in concert. And I can hear Jeff Tweedy singing Our Love Is Meant to Be, and that audience really understanding what that means in that moment. Can't wait to see Wilco again, to see them play this song and see if I'm right. I've been a Wilco fan since around 1996 when Being There, their second album, came out. Cousin is a slightly difficult album, but not so difficult that you can't get into it and it's impenetrable. Don't let me give you that impression. You can pick it up on first listen. It's not that difficult, although there are challenging elements to it, some discordant sounds, some uncomfortableness. But once again, I think that's what they were going for. And in that sense, they really succeeded with this album. The album plays really well as a whole listen. There are certain albums out there that when you put them on, you just don't want to take them off because you don't feel like you've had the full experience of what that album has to offer unless you listen to it all the way through. This is one of those albums. There are definitely elements of Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Of course, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot is considered by many to be Wilco's masterpiece, and there are shades of experimentalism on this album that echo that album. However, I think as a complete whole, there's a better sense of cohesion and I don't want to say similarity, but almost like a sense that these songs really belong to each other on Cousin versus Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, where I think there were a lot of shifts in the dynamics and the feel between songs. I love Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, but I think this album plays better as a cohesive whole, if that makes sense. Once again, there are themes of contrast, of dichotomy, of opposites kind of struggling against each other. Similar to that cover, you've got flowers and then you've got icicles on them. And that's why I said the cover is so perfect as a representation of the music. It truly is. The production flourishes and electronics are definitely there, but they're not center stage. They're not like a Radiohead album where they can be very jarring and in your face and kind of grab you by the throat. I'm also going to reiterate here that this album does need repeated listenings to really reveal itself. The investment of time that you make with this album will pay off. You'll start settling into it. I found myself humming a lot of melody lines this week as I was preparing for this review and listening to this album multiple times. Like many albums, I feel this album not only benefits from repeated listenings, but I also think that it really benefits from playing it in the dark with your eyes closed and just listening to the music, being fully enveloped by the music. There were moments that I had the hair stand up on my arms when I was doing that with this album. I do have to admit, in full disclosure, that my favorite Wilco tends to be the more rocking and more aggressive Wilco of their earlier years. I understand they're older guys now, and Jeff Tweedy is settling down into his third decade helming Wilco. I get it. Even though I prefer that rockier side, I really like this album. It really grew on me, and I think this is easily within the top 5 for me, the top 5 of their 13 studio albums. Where does it rank within that top 5? I don't know yet. I may not know for years. So I'm going to have to sit with this album for a while to see where it finally lands in my Wilco ladder. So the rating that I give to Wilco's Cousin is a very solid 8 out of 10. They did a fine job on this album. I can't wait to see them in concert again, and I can't wait for their next album, which I'm sure is going to drop next year. They're very prolific lately. So this rating is just my opinion. Your mileage may vary. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the album. I'd love to especially hear from you longtime Wilco fans, your thoughts on this album, and were your expectations met? Do you hate it? Do you think it's a masterpiece? Let me know. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. My name is Paul Crayson. This has been Music Mentions. If you want more videos like this and would like to support this type of comment, all I ask is that you hit the subscribe or at least give me a like on the video. It helps a lot in supporting future videos, future album reviews. Just starting to get this channel out of the station, and so any support that I can get from you, the viewers, I'm totally grateful for. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next time.